4. Bloodline Ranch, the war, the price of protection. 25 minutes. That was how long the fight had been going. 25 minutes of gunfire tearing through the Montana night. 25 minutes of men running between buildings, taking cover behind trucks, fences, and the heavy wooden structures that made up the Bloodline Ranch. The peaceful ranch from earlier that evening was gone. Now there was only smoke, shouting, muzzle flashes, and the sharp crack of gunfire echoing across the valley. Caleb Castillo stood behind the corner of the main barn, breathing heavily. His eyes scanned the tree line. Most of the shooters were down. The ranch hands had done their job. 2 of them had taken down attackers on the western side of the property. Another group had forced the remaining shooters away from the main house, but 3 were still out there. 3. Caleb leaned around the corner. A muzzle flash erupted in the darkness. He pulled back. "West side!" one of the ranch hands shouted. Caleb raised his weapon. "I see him." He waited. Another flash. Caleb fired. The shooter dropped. 1. A ranch hand shouted from behind the truck. 2. Another attacker appeared near the fence. Caleb turned and fired again. The man went down. Silence followed. For half a second, everyone froze. Then someone shouted, "One left!" Caleb's eyes narrowed. He spotted movement near the far edge of the property. The final shooter was running. "He's getting away!" Caleb stepped out from cover. "Not tonight." He raised his weapon. The shooter turned. Caleb fired. The man dropped. For one brief second, Caleb thought it was over. Then, bang! Pain exploded through his ribs. Caleb staggered. "What the—" Bang! The second bullet struck his shoulder. His weapon nearly slipped from his hand. He stumbled backward. Then came the third shot. Bang! The bullet struck his chest. Caleb's entire body jerked. He fell against the side of the barn. "Caleb!" One of the ranch hands sprinted toward him. Caleb looked down. His breathing became shallow. The bullet had struck dangerously close to his heart, only inches away. His legs weakened. The ranch hand caught him before he hit the ground. "Boss?" Caleb tried to stay standing. "I'm fine." "You are not fine. Find him." The ranch hand stared at him. "Who?" "The shooter. We got him." Caleb's eyes lifted. "You sure? He's down." Caleb finally let himself lean against the ranch hand. Another man rushed over. "Get the boss inside." "I'm not going anywhere." "Caleb, you're bleeding." "I said I'm fine." The ranch hand looked at the others. "Get the medic." Men scattered. Caleb tried to straighten himself, then his knees buckled. 2 ranch hands caught him. "Easy." Inside the main house, Medea heard the shouting. Her heart dropped. That was Caleb. Theodore was already out of his chair. "Mom!" Medea rushed toward the door. A ranch hand came running through it. "Ma'am, where's my son?" The man's face told her everything. "He's been hit." Medea froze. "Where?" "3 times. Theodore's face went pale. 3? Ribs, shoulder, and chest. Medea grabbed the man's arm. "His chest?" "Yes, ma'am." "How bad?" The ranch hand swallowed. "The chest shot is close to his heart." Medea's entire expression changed. "Take me to him." Theodore followed. Outside, Caleb was being carried toward the house. His shirt was stained from the wounds and his face had gone pale, but his eyes were still open, still fighting, still refusing to surrender. Medea rushed toward him. "My baby!" Caleb looked at her. "Mom." She dropped beside him. "I'm here. I'm okay. Don't you dare lie to me." He tried to smile. "Still bossy." Medea's eyes filled with tears. "And you're still stubborn." Theodore stood behind her, staring at his brother. 25 minutes ago, Caleb had been the man commanding the defense of the Bloodline Ranch. Now he was being carried into his own home because 3 bullets had nearly taken his life. Theodore finally understood what his brother had meant earlier. Protecting the ranch came with a price, and tonight Caleb had paid it in blood. The ranch hands carried him inside. "Get the medical kit. Already coming." "Keep pressure on the shoulder. Watch his breathing." Medea followed them. Theodore remained close behind. Caleb looked toward the windows as they carried him through the house. Outside, the gunfire had finally stopped. The Bloodline Ranch was still standing, but its leader had fallen, and nobody knew yet whether he would survive the night. The second Caleb was brought inside, everyone knew the ranch wasn't equipped to handle what had happened. The chest wound was too close to his heart. The bleeding had to be controlled. He needed a hospital, and he needed it now. "Get the helicopter ready," one of the ranch hands shouted. Medea looked up. "The helicopter! Yes, ma'am. How long?" 3 minutes. Caleb tried to sit up. "Billings." The medic pushed him back down. "Don't move." "Billings," Caleb repeated. Medea grabbed his hand. "You're going to a hospital." "I know." "The helicopter? Faster than the road." Theodore stood nearby, watching the medical team work. The sight of his brother like this made his stomach twist. Caleb had always seemed untouchable, the man who ran the Bloodline Ranch, the man everyone listened to, the man who could walk into a room and make grown men fall silent. Now he was lying on a stretcher, fighting to stay conscious. Outside, the helicopter blades began turning. The sound grew louder. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Medea squeezed Caleb's hand. "You're coming back to me." Caleb looked at her. "Always. You promise?" He gave her a tired smile. "I promise." The medics pushed the stretcher through the doors. Theodore followed. "Can I come?" Medea looked at him. "Yes." Caleb looked toward his little brother. "You stay with Mom." Theodore nodded. "I'm not leaving." Caleb smiled faintly. "Good." The helicopter waited on the landing pad, its rotors cutting through the cold Montana night. The ranch hands formed a path as the medical team rushed Caleb toward it. One of the men opened the helicopter door. "Let's move!" They lifted Caleb inside. Medea climbed in after him. Theodore followed. The door slammed shut. The helicopter lifted. The Bloodline Ranch disappeared beneath them. From above, the property looked almost peaceful. The fields stretched into the darkness. The lights around the ranch glowed against the Montana night. But Theodore knew better now. That land had just been fought over. His brother had been shot protecting it, and the war wasn't finished. Caleb lay strapped to the stretcher as the helicopter headed toward Billings. His eyes opened slightly. Medea was beside him. Theodore sat across from her. "How long?" Caleb asked. The medic checked him. "Not long." Caleb closed his eyes again. Medea leaned closer. "Stay awake." "I'm awake." "Then keep talking." "About what?" "Anything." Caleb gave a weak smile. "You've always hated silence." "Because silence usually means something is wrong." Theodore looked at his brother. "Are you scared?" Caleb opened his eyes. For a moment he didn't answer. Then he looked at Theodore. "Yeah," Theodore swallowed. "Me too." Caleb reached across as far as he could. Theodore grabbed his hand. His brother squeezed it. "Don't be." "Easy for you to say." Caleb smiled faintly. "You're my little brother." So I'm supposed to tell you not to be scared." Theodore's eyes began to water. "But you're the one who's hurt." Caleb looked at him. "I'll be okay." Medea shook her head. "Don't make promises you can't control." Caleb turned toward her. "I'll fight." Medea squeezed his hand. "That's all I need." The helicopter continued through the night toward Billings. Behind them was the Bloodline Ranch. Ahead was the hospital. And somewhere between the two, Caleb realized something. He had spent years believing the ranch needed him to survive. But tonight, as his mother held one hand and his little brother held the other, he finally understood something else. Maybe he wasn't the only one protecting the bloodline. Maybe they were protecting him too. 16 hours. That was how long Caleb Castillo had been behind those double doors. 16 hours of waiting. 16 hours of watching the clock. 16 hours of his family sitting in the same hospital lobby, barely moving, barely speaking, and praying that the man who led Bloodline Ranch would walk out of that operating room alive. Caleb had always been the strongest one, the one everyone looked to, the one who never backed down. But tonight none of that mattered. He was just a son, a brother, a man fighting to survive. His mother sat stiffly in one of the lobby chairs, her hands clasped together so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Beside her sat Caleb's little brother, staring blankly at the floor. Neither of them had said much in the last few hours. There wasn't much left to say. Then, finally, the operating room doors opened. A doctor stepped through. Both of them immediately stood. "Family of Caleb Castillo?" His mother nearly stumbled getting to her feet. "Yes." The doctor pulled down his mask. "The surgery is over." Her hand flew to her mouth. "Is he He's alive. The words hit the room like a wave. Caleb's mother closed her eyes, a shaky breath escaping her lungs. His little brother lowered his head, rubbing both hands over his face. Alive. That was all they needed. The surgery was extremely difficult, the doctor continued. It took 16 hours, but we were able to stabilize him. He's going to need a lot of monitoring, and the next 24 to 48 hours are important. His mother nodded quickly. Can we see him? Briefly. He's still unconscious and heavily sedated. She didn't hesitate. Take me to him. Caleb lay motionless beneath the white hospital blankets. Machines surrounded him. A monitor beeped steadily beside the bed, each sound a reminder that his heart was still beating. His mother stood beside him, staring at her son. The man who had once seemed invincible now looked frighteningly human. She reached out and carefully brushed a strand of dark hair away from his forehead. "Oh, my boy," she whispered. His little brother stood on the other side of the bed. He didn't say anything. He just stared. Caleb didn't move, didn't open his eyes, didn't know they were there, but he was alive, and for now, that was enough. Nearly an hour later, the hospital doors suddenly flew open. A woman came rushing through them, dragging a suitcase behind her. "Where is he?" Her voice echoed across the lobby. Caleb's mother turned around, her eyes widened. "Alexis?" Alexis Kyle Castillo stopped in front of her mother, breathing hard. Her hair was slightly disheveled, her clothes wrinkled from traveling, and she looked like she had barely stopped moving since she left home. "Where is Caleb?" Her mother stared at her. "How did you get here so fast?" Alexis shook her head. "I got the fastest flight I could get. You were hours away." "I know." "Alexis, you just called me." "I know, Mom," her voice cracked. "I wasn't going to wait." Her mother stepped closer. "When did you even leave?" "The second I heard." Alexis dropped the handle of her suitcase. "I called the airport. They put me on the first flight they could get me on. I didn't care where the plane was going after that. I just needed to get here." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. Alexis had always been the middle child, the one who could somehow be both stubborn and fiercely protective at the same time. And when it came to her brothers, especially Caleb, there was no distance far enough to keep her away. "Is he alive?" Alexis asked quietly. Her mother nodded. "He's alive." Alexis closed her eyes. For the first time since she'd arrived, her shoulders dropped. A shaky breath escaped her. "Thank God!" Her little brother stepped toward her. Alexis immediately pulled him into a hug. He held onto her tightly. "He's sleeping," he whispered. Alexis nodded against his shoulder. "Can I see him?" Her mother reached for her hand. "Yes." They walked down the hallway together. Every step seemed to get heavier. When Alexis finally entered Caleb's room, she stopped cold. Her brother was lying in the bed, surrounded by machines. For several seconds, she couldn't move. This wasn't the Caleb she knew. This wasn't the brother who had always stood between his family and danger. This wasn't the bloodline ranch leader everyone feared. This was her big brother. Her eyes immediately filled with tears. She walked slowly toward the bed. "Hey, big brother," her voice trembled. "You scared the hell out of me." She pulled a chair beside him and sat down. Her fingers gently wrapped around his hand. "I'm here now." Caleb didn't respond. The machines continued their steady rhythm. Alexis swallowed hard. "You better wake up." She squeezed his hand. "Because I flew halfway across the country for you, and I'm not leaving until you do." Her mother stood silently in the doorway. For the first time in 16 hours, the Castillo family was together. And for now, they could only wait.